up on me. Oh, my joy I found because of your love for me. Oh my God, so good, you never give up on me. Oh, what joy I found because of your love for me.
From death now raised to life again. Oh my God, so good, you never give up on me. Oh, what joy I found because of your love for me. Oh my God, so good, you never give up on me. Oh, what joy I found because of your love for me. Not a slave to sin, so I'm singing. You are good, buried with Christ to rise in your freedom. You are good. When you make a promise, Jesus, you keep it. You are good. So I'll praise your name as long as I'm breathing, for you are good. And I'm not a slave to sin, so I'm singing. You are good, buried with Christ to rise in your freedom. You are good. When you make a promise, Jesus, you keep it. You are good. So I'll praise your name as long as I'm breathing. You are good. Oh, I'm not a slave to sin, so I'm singing. You are good. And buried with Christ to rise in your freedom. You are good. You make a promise, Jesus, you keep it. You are good. So I'll praise your name as long as I'm breathing, for you are good. Oh my God, so good, you never give up on me. Oh, what joy I found because of your love for me. Oh my God, so good, you never give up on me. Oh, what joy I found because of your love for me. And walking around these walls, I thought by now they'd fall, but you have never failed me yet. And waiting for change to come, and knowing the battle's won, for you have never failed me yet. No, your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. No, you've never failed us, God. And I
faithfulness, your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, for this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. Oh, we worship God. We've seen you move, Lord. Yeah. Oh, we love you, Lord. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move. You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Oh, you're survived. For your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. Sing that again. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, for this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. Oh, you've never failed us, God. You never fail us, Lord. No. You never failed us, God. All your promises are yes and amen, oh Lord. Yeah. For your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. You've never failed. I want to hear you singing that out. For your promise still stands. And great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands. This is my confidence. Your promise still stands. Great is your faithfulness, faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, for this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet. No, you've never failed me, God. And I will not forget that you've never failed me yet. No, I will not forget your promises, oh God. I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I've seen you move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. You made a way where there was no way, and I believe I'll see you do it again. I'll see you do it again. Oh, for your promise still stands, and great is your faithfulness. I'm still in your hands, for this is my confidence. You've never failed me yet.
So, when you don't know how to do something, how to fix something, or how something works, what do? Ask a teacher? Ask your parents? Ask your friends? Ask someone you really know and trust? No! You go to the internet and ask some randos. But I'm not talking about creeps here, I hope. No, I mean the people of the internet! You know, those people who make how-to videos. Because chances are, if you're trying to figure out something, someone on the internet has already figured it out for you. Things like, how do I unsend a text? No. How do I do a winged eyeliner? How do I get rid of the zit by Friday night? How do I get out of gym class? How do I screen cap Snapchat without getting caught? They'll never know. But then there are things in life that don't have an easy fix, that don't have a simple solution, that don't have a how-to video. Things like what to do when you have problems with family, or when it seems like you have no control in your life, or what to do when someone has done something to you. I mean, clearly, they gotta go. The truth is, there's a lot of life that doesn't have a solution you can just find online. So how do you know what to do when you don't know what to do?
What a topic. What's up, everybody? It's still me. Hi. Just changing positions tonight. I'm just doing it all. It's all honestly, you know, I thought about it, but then I was like, you know what? I'm not that narcissistic enough. I'm almost there, but I'm not quite to that level of narcissism. It's just a me service. I fired everybody else, and I'm just like, it's all me. I can't fire Jennifer because I can't run sound booth. That's the only thing I can't do. Oh, darn. There's many other reasons I can't fire her. One, I live with her, and two, I like her. The second one is more than the first one. All right, so if you don't realize, we're doing a sermon series on what to do when you don't know what to do, which I feel like is very fitting with this time of life. I just like to point this out there. The whole Snapchat thing, y'all. For one, don't do that. That's sneaky. For two, I did not realize this many years ago when Snapchat was still new. I didn't realize if you screenshotted it, it tells the person. So I had a snap from somebody, and I screenshotted it, and I get a snap back. They're like, why did you just screenshot my message? I was like, what? Huh? What? They're like, yeah, why would you screenshot it? I was like, I don't know what you speak of. And they're like, no. My Snapchat told me you screenshotted it. And I was like, well, it was an accident. And this was like a very serious Snapchat they sent me, and I screenshotted it, and then I was like, oh. I don't know if they actually believed me or not. They probably didn't, but oopsie. So we are talking about what to do when you don't know what to do. We are going to be talking about one of my favorite stories for the next few weeks, and we'll talk about who that is in just a moment. But first, quick question. who feels like they live in two different worlds? What I mean by that is not that you like are from another planet. If you are from another planet, please come see me after service. I would love to know how you got here and where you're from, and I want to go visit. But what I mean like that is there is a you that is you when you're home. There's your life when you're at home by yourself, stuff like that. Then there's you when you're out in the world, when you're at school, when you're with your friends, when you're sitting in band room with other people, when you're playing sports with other people, things like that. So there's your two different lives that you kind of have. I mean, most of us do. I will say, for myself, I definitely have an at-home personality and a out-in-the-world personality. I do this thing at home. I would never do this in public. I eat really weird at home. And I wish I didn't have to say this, but what I mean by I eat really weird at home is, like, if I'm eating pizza, I take all the toppings off the pizza and I eat the bread, and then I eat the toppings later. Like, I'll get 3 slices of pizza, take off all the toppings, eat all 3 pieces of bread, and I have ruined Maddie Bailey's world, and then I'll just eat the toppings. No, but I like the toppings. I just like to eat them separately. I would never do that in public because I get stares like Maddie Bailey. Or if I'm like, anybody knows those like Tostina pizza roll things? So those things, again, I don't know why I do this. I bite off all the corners, break it in half, eat all the insides of all of them, and then I like stack them all together like a hamburger, and I just eat them. I eat the middle and then the outsides. I also dip them in milk with a fork sometimes. Best thing ever, if you want to dip Oreos in your milk, get a fork, stab them in the middle with the fork, and dip them in the milk. That way you don't drop them, and you get a whole milked Oreo. Pop-Tarts, I eat all around the edge of the Pop-Tart, and then I eat the bottom of the Pop-Tart, and then I eat the iced part of the Pop-Tart. But I would never do this in public because then I get weird stares like I'm getting from the front row right here. So, but don't you dare judge me, because we all have ways that we act at home that we would never do in public. Some of us dance to the theme song of The Office in our home, and we would never do that in public. But we all have ways that we act at home that we would not dare act in front of our friends or at school or things like that. And the question is, why? Why do we do this? Why do we have these at-home personalities? I think part of it, at least for me, is that at home, that's your little bubble. That's your happy place. That's your little world. Sorry. All I can see is Carilla on the front row just licking the straw of her slushie. While she's staring at me just going. For Carilla, everywhere is her home. All places are Carilla's home. But we have places where at home we feel nice and comfortable. Things are good there. We can pretty much do whatever we want to at home. All right? And so we act completely different, though, in other places. And so the thing about that is we know at home we can get away with stuff that we probably couldn't get away with at school. You probably are not going to talk to your teacher the same way you talk to your parents sometimes. You're generally not going to treat your best friend the way you treat your sibling. You're generally not going to do stuff at home, at school, that you would normally do at home, because you understand that you can kind of get away with a little bit more at home. You should not disrespect your parents. It's never a good thing. Don't do that. It's not good. Don't do that. So, but you know that you can get away with more. And so you know you might be able to get an attitude with your friends at school, but it's not ever to the same level of what you get at home. I know for me personally, I would never act in public some of the ways I act at home. Ever. I am a very odd individual at home. I'm an odd individual in public. Unfortunately, I'm odder at home. But it's my bubble. It's my happy place. It makes me happy. And so we tend to realize that at home, though, we get the realest, sometimes worst version of ourselves, because it's the place where we can get away with things. I mean, think about it. You would never leave your nasty, gross, dirty socks on the stairs at your friend's house. But at home, you probably have nasty, dirty, gross socks everywhere. Okay? You would never walk into your friend's home and be like, what's for dinner? And then they're like, I made lasagna. You'd be like, ew, why would you make lasagna? That's gross. Can't believe you would do this to me. I'm so aggravated with you. I hate you. You would never do that, I hope. If you do that, you shouldn't. Never. I was raised by my parents that if you went to a house and they made you food, you ate that thing. I don't care if you don't like it. At home, you can eat what you want to eat, but at somebody else's house, they have made you a 5-star meal. Y'all, growing up, I had this friend whose parents were not the most, they were just really bad at cooking. They were really bad. They had a lot of takeout for a reason. And I generally did not eat over at his house. He ate over at my house more often than not because his parents just really didn't make good food. But one day, I made the mistake of being at this house too late, and his mom made food, and she really did claim it was lasagna. I'm not quite sure what it was, because for one, the noodles weren't cooked. So it was uncooked. I really wish I was making this up. It was uncooked noodles, and then there were these random like pieces of green and purple in it. I'm really not sure what exactly it was. And then to make it all weird, it was like hard. Like, of course it's crunchy because of the noodles, but then like the whole thing was hard. Like, I kind of bent her fork trying to eat it, but I ate it. I felt sick afterwards, but I ate it because that's just what you do. At home, though, I'd probably be like, oh, this is gross. I can't believe you've done this to me. You've tried to kill me. No, I'm not eating this. I have standards. But at somebody's house, though, we're not going to do that. You know, you're never going to tell your coach or your band director, sorry, I'm not going to be there tonight. I've made other plans. I'm not going to do it. Or hopefully you won't, because if you do, you probably won't be on that team much longer. You know, and so we know that we can get away with stuff at home that we can't quite get away with at school. And so no matter what's happening, no matter what we're going through, no matter what kind of situation you're in, here's the question I like to ask myself. I do like to ask myself this question, and you should ask yourself this question. How does this affect me? So what this means is everything we do at home, everything you do in life is a response to how does this situation affect me? How does this affect my life personally? So, for instance, say I want to go out tonight with my friends, but I have to babysit because my parents hate me. How does this affect me? It ruins my life. So I will have an attitude the entire night with my parents because they ruined my life and they don't understand I'm a teenager and I have needs. Or I studied so hard for that test while my friend spent the entire night scrolling through TikTok. My friend made a better grade than me. So how does this affect me? They have ruined my life. They don't deserve that grade. They obviously cheated, so we're not friends anymore. I hate them. Things like that. So what I think a lot of us don't realize, though, is that as we think about our lives at home or how much our response to the question is, how does this affect me? Because we tend to basically take everything and go, this has ruined my life and I hate it. And everything, we take it very personally, and things affect us very personally. And so it kind of changes the vibe or the mood in our house. And so as we respond to how things are affecting us, the people in our house respond to how we are affecting them. So it's like a cause and effect thing. It affects us, we respond badly. It affects them, they respond badly. And it's like the circle of anger. That's right, it's the circle of anger. And it moves us all to throw things. I had a door slammed in my face one time because of it. I did break my nose one time. It was painful. I deserved it, kind of, sort of. All right, but then so we respond to their anger, and then they respond to our anger, and then it just kind of just keeps going. And most of us don't realize that we played a key role in the overall feeling in our house and in the overall mood-bringing downness that we've affected them with. And so for some of us, we do know that we're at least a part of the mood in the house. We realize that we might have added to the tension or the attitude that's inside of the home with the way that we're acting. I cannot swallow things. You ever just get a really unnecessarily dry mouth? Like to the point of where it's like cotton balls? Yeah, that's me right now. All right. And so the question is, though, what do you do about it? What do you do when things are tough at home, or when the mood is off, or when you know you're part of the reason that things are going bad, but you have no idea what to do about it? Now, don't get me wrong, families can be tough. I understand that. My family growing up, I come from a divorced family, so I know family can be trying at times. Always an exciting moment. But the good news of this all is that the difficulty you face with your family is not unique. This difficulty has been going on for thousands and thousands of years. Contrary to popular belief, you are not the first person to go through this struggle. Somebody has gone through it before you, and luckily we have the Bible to tell us all about this time of struggle. And we're going to look at a story, one of my favorite stories, from a guy named Joseph. Everybody knows who Joseph is, right? All right, so Joseph is one of the most famous people in like the Old Testament. He's super popular, great story, one of my favorites. He is a guy who, just like us, finds himself in a situation where he doesn't quite know what to do. So if you don't know the story of Joseph, essentially Joseph was one of 12 brothers. Just let that sink in right now. He had 12 brothers and a sister. One sister. Joseph's story kind of plays out like the most interesting Netflix show. If you think about it, like, there's plots for murder. There's being sold into slavery. There's deception. There's his whole family period. So just like his family, just a little sidebar. His family, he comes from a man named Israel. Everybody knows about Israel. He left. He married a woman named Leah. He really wanted to marry a woman named Rachel, but at the last moment, the woman's dad was like, "Ha, gotcha. This one's you're getting." So he married Leah. Then he was like, "I don't really want her. I wanted the other one." So then the Joker works 7 years, then marries Rachel. So he's got 2 wives now. Then Leah starts having kids, and Rachel's like, "This is terrible," but Rachel can't have kids. So Rachel gives her handmaiden to her husband, and then the handmaiden starts having kids, and then Leah's like, "You won't leave me out of this game." So then Leah gives her handmaiden to her husband, and they start having kids. Then Rachel has kids. So this dude has 12 kids, 4 different wives, and a daughter, and him, and it is the most soap opera that I think I've ever witnessed. But it's fascinating. That's part of the reason why I love the Bible, because the Bible is full of ridiculous stories. Like in this one little thing, we have murder plots, we have deception, we have anger, we have jealousy, we have all kinds of temptations and just danger, and it's just fascinating, and I love it. All right, and so we read down with Joseph's life. We read in Genesis 37 about how Jacob, or Israel, made a very special coat for Joseph. They called it his coat of many colors. I always imagine it's just like this really giant patchwork of just bright colors or something. It said many colors. I like to imagine it's like every color, all the colors, just like this giant kaleidoscope of beauty. Anyways, and so this itself is a physical reminder of how much more his dad loved him than the other brothers, because Joseph was the favorite, because he was the daughter of Rachel. He was her firstborn. He was the one that Israel truly loved Rachel the most. So when Rachel finally had a kid, this kid was like the prize of Israel's life. It was his pride and joy. So for some reason, in Jacob's bright mind, he makes them this coat to make him stand out from the rest of his brothers, who were probably already mad, because I'm sure Joseph gets special treatment. Joseph's probably the brother who, like, when everybody does something wrong, everybody gets in trouble but Joseph. And they're all like, "But Joseph did it too." And his dad's probably like, "Yes, but you made Joseph do it, I'm sure." I'm sure Joseph instigated stuff sometimes, and he was like, "Hey guys, go do this." And they did it, and then they got in trouble, and they're like, "But Joseph told us to." And Israel's probably like, "I don't care. Because in his eyes, Joseph was his perfect promised child who could do no wrong. So his brothers despised him. And so at that time, I know nowadays, if you're like, "He got a coat," woohoo, he got a coat, yay. But at that time, your robe or your coat that you wore was basically showed how important you were. It'd be like if, say, a new pair of Jordans came out and you got those new pair of Jordans immediately. That shows that you are very important, because you can both afford and get new Jordans immediately. If you can, I would love a pair. Send them to me. I will take them. I like shoes. All right, and so to make matters worse, though, not only does this dude have this beautiful, beautiful robe, then he starts having dreams. Just out of nowhere, he starts having these random dreams. So we see in Genesis 37, verse 6 through 7, it says, He, Joseph, said to them, his brothers, listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it. Well, so reading this, you're just like, oh, yay, grain, yeah, wheat, great dream. But this was not your typical dream. His brothers knew it. This dream basically said that Joseph was going to be better than all of his brothers. He was going to be the greatest of all of them because their sheets of grain bowed down to his, basically meaning that he is going to be like this amazing, amazing person, and they're going to bow down to them. Now, as you can imagine, that probably didn't go over very well. And as you can imagine, Joseph was probably not the smartest person for telling his brothers of that dream. And to make matters worse, dude has another dream later on. And we'll talk about this one. All right, but first we're going to talk about this. So he has the dream, he tells his brothers and everything, and then his brothers basically say, do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us? And they hated him all the more because of his dream and what he said. All right, and so as you can tell, the mood around Joseph is not that great. All right, so his brothers are over his robe, they're over his dreams, they're over his favoritism, they're over his special little can do no wrong life, and they're talking about Joseph had another dream. And so in this dream, there's the sun and the moon and the stars, and all of them bow down to him. I just want to say, if I had a dream about the sun and moon and stars bowing down to me, first of all, I probably would wonder what I had to eat the night before, because that would be weird. But then also, I probably wouldn't be sharing it with everybody. But Joseph, unfortunately, didn't just tell everybody. Then he told his brothers and his parents. And so just word to the wise, you don't always have to share everything that you get. If you get something, or like if God gives you a word, you don't have to always share it with everybody, because not everybody's going to receive it well. And I highly doubt that Joseph did this very humbly, especially with the way that they reacted. He's probably like, I had this dream where the sun and the moon and the stars all bow down before me. Just take it what you will. It's my dream. And he probably like turned and like switched his robe so they saw the colors or something, just so he could really drive home the fact that he was better than them. And so it gets worse. And then he tells his dad. And so can you imagine the tension that's inside of this family right now? You have this brother over here who is perfect, can do no wrong, and then you have these brothers over here who are essentially outcasts to the rest of the world because they don't feel like they're quite as loved. Even his own dad got kind of aggravated with the second dream when he was like, you trying to tell me that your parents and your brothers are going to bow to you? That seems weird, but okay. So, but the attention of one dad, again, four moms, a dozen brothers, and this random little sister. And he's just going around telling everybody about this vision. But you see, Joseph wasn't really acting in a way that considered the feelings of the people around him. He wasn't necessarily acting in a way that considered how his dreams or his life or his favoritism would affect his other brothers. And so Joseph was behaving a lot like some of us do in our families sometimes. He was hyper aware of how they're being treated, but not really aware of how it affects everybody else. And so sometimes you're aware of maybe I'm getting a little bit of extra love from my parents, or maybe I'm getting a little bit of favoritism from this certain teacher, but you kind of miss the mark of how it's affecting the people around you, because we tend to live in our own little bubble of our world and not really think about other things. And so Joseph's family, though, was the same way. All Joseph's brothers could see was how the whole situation was affecting them. All they could see was the unfairness, the injustice. I mean, Joseph received a robe, a fancy, fancy robe, and that's basically like being given a brand new car when they're sitting over here driving little hoopties that barely get off the ground. So like Joseph gets like this nice, fancy new Mercedes, and they're over here rocking like a 1990 Ford Probe or something, trying to just hopefully make it to the next gas station before the car breaks down. All right, and so the truth is, there are these few verses. They're about more than some strange dreams and a coat. It's about how the tension in the family was never dealt with. Nobody ever really addressed the issue. And the problem with tension is that tension that goes unaddressed is just left to grow and grow and grow and grow until eventually it's going to explode. All right, and so, I mean, we're still reading this today. It's still relevant today, but the question is why? Well, it's to show us that family has always been complicated. Contrary to popular belief, your family probably is not the most messed up family ever. There are families that are way more messed up than you, especially if you look at the Bible. This one in particular shows that's a pretty jacked up family. It's to teach us also to pay attention to how our actions and our situations affect the people we live with, and to be more aware of that. It's to remind us, like I said earlier, that tension left unresolved, that's not dealt with, it doesn't just go away. It doesn't magically just vanish out of thin air, but it always escalates to something bigger. And next week, we will talk about how Joseph's situation escalated to what I would like to call a dumpster fire. Just a real bad dumpster fire. It's just really, really bad. But until then, what I want to talk about is what could they have done differently? What could the people in the family have done differently? How could they have reacted to the situation differently? Well, Joseph could have started to see himself as part of the problem. He could have actually noticed that he was the one causing all of the issues. He's one person in a large family. He's not the center of it, you know? So he needed to realize that he was affecting the people who lived around him, the people whose lives he was living with day to day, even though in his world, everything was hunky-dory, rainbows and sunshine. In his brother's world, it was pretty terrible. His dad, Israel, could have recognized how his favoritism was impacting his family. Because again, all Homeboy cared about was that his precious Joseph was just loved and cared for, and the rest of the brothers could have fallen off a cliff and you probably never would have noticed. Or the brothers themselves, they probably could have chilled out a little bit on the grudges, and probably should have stopped gossiping about Joseph, because every chance they got, he would turn around, they'd be like, oh, Joseph, I hate him. He's terrible. Worst brother ever. All right, and so everybody in the whole family probably could have ignored Joseph's dreams and not allowed their insecurity to control them, and just be like, oh, that's Joseph. Ha, 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 you know how he is. Ha, 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 Joseph. Oh, that joker. But the point is, though, Joseph's family drama is really not much different than ours. It's not all different, even though it was thousands and thousands of years ago. History kind of has a way of repeating itself. And so his family drama and our family drama can pretty much be the same. You know, whether you're the favorite one, or the angry one, or the firstborn, or the lastborn, or the quiet one, or the one who has a gold medal and door slamming. You know, we all play a part in the roles of our family. And there's a role that each one of us play. And so we have to pay attention to how our words and our actions contribute to the overall mood or vibe or everything of our family. We have to pay attention to the things that we say and the things that we do, and realize that our actions have consequences and reactions, not just to our life, but to everybody else around us. I know we all like to kind of live in our own little bubble, but unfortunately, we don't live in a bubble. We live in a world where the things that we do and the things that we say have an effect on other people. All right, and so we need to start taking a look at the kind of things that we do and start asking ourselves, you know, how am I affecting my family? What kind of role am I playing? You know, am I making things more tense? Am I making things worse? Or am I making things better? Am I trying to diffuse these situations? You know, in other words, you need to pay attention to how you affect your family. All right, and then you have to choose basically how you treat them. You know, if you aren't sure where to begin, you can take a look at this passage. So this is from a letter that Paul wrote to the church at Philippi. It's in the book Philippians, in case you didn't know, Philippians to the church of Philippi. All right, and so in some ways, you know, these people worked a lot like a family at the time. They were trying to figure out how to live together, and so Paul writes to them, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. In your relationship with one another, have the same mindset as Christ Jesus, who, being in very nature God, did not consider equality with God something to be used to his own advantage. Rather, he made himself nothing by taking the very nature of a servant, being made in human likeness, and being found in appearance as a man. He humbled himself by becoming obedient to death, even death on a cross. So Paul's basically saying, all right, guys, Jesus has set us up an example here. He gave up the privileges that came with being God, with being this almighty, phenomenal, powerful creature. He basically was genie without the lamp, phenomenal cosmic powers, but he had a really, really big living space. I'm still not sponsored, Disney. Talk to me, sponsor me. All right, but he basically gave up all of this stuff. He deserved to be treated like God because he was, but he didn't require that of people. He chose to serve and have compassion to human when really he, in all actuality, could have come down and been like, people, worship me, do better. And he could have, because he had that ability to, but he chose not to. He chose to come as a little bitty baby, as a little kid, all sweet and innocent, wrapped up in swaddling clothes and all that kind of stuff. All right, and so Paul is reminding us that that's the kind of person that we need to be. We need to have compassion. Even when we don't get compassion back, we still need to have compassion for others. And I know that's super hard to do. If somebody's mean to you, you want to be mean back to them. But we should never react in anger or in aggravation with somebody, because that's never a good thing. And so the $1 million question is, how do we do that when we don't know what to do at our own house? Well, we start by paying attention to how we see ourselves. Do we act like we're better than other people? Do we think we're better than other people in our house or in our family? That could be accurate. It's probably not. But what would it look like if we treated our siblings or our parents or anybody, the adults in our house, as more of an equal person, or maybe even more important than ourselves? What if we stopped seeing ourselves as the most important person in our family? And we finally, maybe hardest of all, we need to invite someone else to speak into how we treat our family. It's nearly impossible for us to see clearly the role that we play in our family. And that's just because we are in the middle of it. It's hardest to see the kind of reaction you're having on somebody else when you're in the middle of the situation. And so we need somebody who is from the outside looking in, who kind of has a better perspective on things, who kind of can actually see things more clearly. They're not letting emotions get in the way. They're not letting her feelings get in the way. They're not letting stuff like that get in the way. And so they can give you a more accurate representation of how you're being in your family. And we have to actually be willing to receive what they say when they say it. Because if they say something, if you don't like it, and you're just like, oh, shut up, I hate you, then that does no good. You've lost the point, all right? And so, in fact, asking somebody who is older or wiser is one of the best things to do when you don't know what to do. That's why we have things like small groups, which we're going to start back tonight. We'll have our small groups again. That's why we do things like that. We need people around us who are older and wiser. I'm just older. I'm probably not wiser. Like a leader who really knows what's going on in our family, who's already been through the situations and can help us figure out what to do when we don't know what to do. And so imagine for a second if everybody in your family did this, if everybody started living this way with more compassion, with more realization of how they affect the family. What if everybody paid attention to how they affected everyone else? What would it do for your relationships with the people who live at your house? What would it do for the general level of tension or peace at your house? And what if it started with you? It very much could. You have the ability to be the one who starts to create that different atmosphere that you want to see in your own house, all right? So if everybody would stand up for me. So before we go into small groups, what I want to challenge you guys to do is start to think about what kind of effect, good or bad, you have on your family and the people that are around you. And try to start thinking of ways that you can more positively affect your family. Try to think of situations where maybe you haven't reacted the best way, or maybe you've said something that you shouldn't have said, or maybe you've done something that maybe you shouldn't have done, and work towards fixing those areas of your life. Work towards going from thinking that you're the most important, amazing, awesomest person in the family to realizing, well, maybe there are more people who are more important than me in my family. And there's nobody more important than me except for Jennifer, but whatever. But maybe start to think that you're not the center of the world. You're not the center of your family. You're just a part of your family. You're still an important part. You're just not the most important part. And start to ask God to deal with you on ways that you can be a better part of your family, that you can be a more productive part of your family, that you can be the person who, instead of always bringing down the mood or always making things bad, you can start to bring up the mood in your family, all right? So we're going to pray, and then we'll switch into small groups. All right, bow your head. Dear Heavenly Father, I am so thankful, as always, God, for the chance to come and talk to these teenagers, Lord, and to speak the word to them. And I just pray, God, that you would begin to move in their lives, that you would begin to show them the roles that they play in their family, whether it be good or bad, Lord, that you begin to show them how, unlike Joseph, they can be aware of how they affect the family mood, how they affect the things that go on in their family, that you can begin to work with them and begin to help them to become a better part of their family. Help them to become that person who, instead of always bringing things down, instead of always making a bad situation, they become more of a light in their family, more of someone who helps to diffuse the bad situations, or when they walk into the house, the mood instantly lifts, Lord. And I just pray that you begin to work with them, God, that you begin to speak with them, Lord, and it's all in your heavenly name we pray. Amen. All right, so we are going back to small groups. Since we are smaller, thanks to Corona right now, we're just going to split genders. All right, so girls will be in the back with Miss Jennifer and Miss Savannah, and then guys, you can come up here with me and Mr. Dez, and Mr. Hetton is also in the back.